you are somebody who is in the criminal justice system, if you're incarcerated, again, it's something that you can control. It's something that you can start taking a positive ownership over your life and start realizing that you do have some power.
Welcome to Criminal Injustice, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on America's broken legal system. I'm your host, Casey Krizman, a criminal defense attorney and former criminal defendant. I fight in the trenches to defend those caught in the machinery of our so-called justice system. Each month, we bring you raw conversations with activists, advocates, and experts who are working to expose systemic oppression and create real change for the system and for the people caught up in it. We dive deep into troubling realities of a system that seems designed to keep people trapped in cycles of poverty and incarceration. The fight against criminal injustice starts now. Today is episode 1, and I'm excited to embark on this podcast journey. I'm especially thrilled to have Oliver Vaughn as my first guest. Oliver is a bodyworker, someone who uses massage and personal training to help people improve their lives physically, leading to psychic change. While physical well-being and criminal injustice may not seem intertwined, the fact is, when your life is turned upside down, finding something that you can control can be a game changer, getting you through that traumatic experience. In the midst of chaos, do things that feel empowering and rise above it. Welcome, Oliver, and thanks for being a guest on our first show. My goal with this episode is to give folks tangible direction on how to take control of their lives and their physical and mental well-being. It's no accident that this is my first episode and what I'm choosing to focus on, because it is really the foundation of how people can take control of their lives. You know, in my line of work, the legal stuff is half the battle. Criminal defendants come to me and their life is in shambles and they need help and guidance. And that's why we're here today talking to you. Now, you're a body worker. What does that mean?
For me, I like the term body worker because I'm technically a licensed massage therapist. But I think generally when people think massage therapy, they think of like spas, wellness, that type of stuff. Nothing wrong with that. But for me, body work is really getting into like those deep issues like you're talking about that are kind of starting to pull people apart, starting to cause stress, pain, whatever dysfunction in their life. So that's really what I go after with body work, is wherever those problem areas are and work through those things. And then I also do strength training as well. So I also kind of work on releasing stress, all that good stuff, but also like building strength and resilience in the body as well. So that's what I like. That's what body work is to me. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you get into body work?
Kind of like long story. I mean, I guess I would start with honestly. As a kid, my mom would let us stay up late if she allowed us to like rub her feet. So I think that was where it started. It was like literally just going for that, and that's I think where I got a feel for like tension and stuff. Yeah. So I think I was actually doing a decent job, kind of like working tension out of my mom's feet, and got a good feel for that.
Okay.
And then like as life progressed, I was an athlete, played sports, did a lot of powerlifting in college, and then ran into like my first serious bout with back pain, like my first year after graduating. And then from there, kind of started digging into just like, how do I fix this pain? And it was like debilitating, caused frankly just a lot of depression. It was like a pretty rough time in life.
Right.
But figured out how to like get into foam rolling, lacrosse balling, and found like a particular muscle in my hip and got a release out of that. And that pretty much instantaneously fixed my back pain. Oh, wow. So from that point, I kind of knew that I was like, and I had this wave of euphoria that came. I was like almost like crying in the gym, trying to like control my emotions.
Right.
But it was this massive wave of like, euphoria. I was like super happy and just grateful that I was out of pain. And I felt like just this massive shift in like my psychology and just everything from that point.
A psychic change.
Quite a bit, yeah. Because I mean, again, it was like I was depressed, sad, just like not having a good time.
Right.
And literally that one release kind of switched it from like, I have hope, there's a way out of this, I feel better. And then from that moment, that's where I kind of really knew like massage and body work, was just super duper powerful. And almost in an instant, sometimes if you're lucky, you can create that shift for somebody. So that's like short story long,
And it sounds to me like you were in pain and you took it into your own hands.
Yeah, definitely. And that is a huge part that I like to focus on, kind of, push onto my clients is that they have some control. There is something that they can do about this. And I think having that moment where you're empowering somebody of like, there is a way out and you have to do something about it is a big moment for people. So, yeah.
So when we're talking about body work, you've mentioned massage and personal training, weight strength training.
Mhm.
A lot of folks are coming off the couch, or they might be reasonably fit, but don't know where to start. Uh, Outside of the massage and personal training, where are good places for people to start taking control of their personal or their physical well-being?
Yeah, I think like you can obviously start with the basics of just like literally get outside, go on a walk,
Okay.
go eat good food,
Right.
get good sleep, drink water. Those are like the basic things.
Right.
And then I think with the internet today, honestly, education is so huge and it's so widely available. Like there's nothing stopping anybody from getting online and seeing stuff like this and figuring out like how do I actually take control and
Right.
move forward. So yeah, like start with the basics and then go get educated and kind of just keep taking that next step.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned eating, sleeping, these basics.
Hmm.
What does it? Why is that so important?
Yeah, I think it's important for me just because it creates almost like a rhythm in life, and that we're very cyclical beings. Obviously, we have a circadian rhythm, and our hormones, everything kind of functions off of that. So if you're lacking a rhythm in your life, if you're on drugs, staying up late, have no, consistency with like social circles or just any habits at all, it's going to lead to just relatively irrational behavior, honestly, in my
Right.
opinion. So I think if you can start with those basics of like get a schedule down, go
Right.
to sleep, wake up, go outside, get some sunlight, that's going to start at least regulating those basics.
Right.
And that gives you at least a platform, kind of a foundation to build on. So that way you can actually like go make better decisions. So
Right.
that's why that stuff is so important to me. And I always stress that. I think people look at too far ahead of those things sometimes. And if those things aren't in place, I feel like nothing else honestly matters too much.
It's so
So yeah.
Yeah, so often they, when people want to get into shape, they say, "Oh, I need to go sign up for that half marathon or that 10K," and they start running right off the couch.
Mhm.
And I don't want to take away from, hey, get active, absolutely, and create goals for yourself.
Mhm.
But perhaps the first step to being physically fit is to eat healthy and get sleep.
Absolutely. And those really are like the building blocks of where we recover to. So if you're in a bad spot and you're in pain, if you are just like struggling, have any depression, something like that, I bet there's something off in there that we can fix.
Right.
So yeah, sleep is literally just when you're rebuilding, recovering, and then food's, like building blocks to kind of get back there. So those are definitely the most foundational things. And then from there, yeah, scaling in, weights and running and, whatever else we want to do.
Okay.
But yeah, start with the basics. And that's something that also too anybody can do.
Right.
There's no barrier to entry to getting better sleep. Like those are things you can control today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about breathing?
Breathing also extremely important. I am like a certified breath coach, so I've definitely done some courses in that.
Okay.
And I think when it comes to especially like mental change, your breath really does indicate where your head's going to be at. If I start hyperventilating, I'm going to start getting a little anxious here. Versus if I take one big breath, I'm going to kind of settle into my space, get a little bit more confident, and yeah. So I mean, breathing's definitely going to like indicate where your nervous system's going. So I think just focusing on the rate of your breathing is a big place to start. So it's a cliche when somebody's having kind of a breakdown, but it's like take a breath. But that is really where a lot of that starts when you're trying to get a shift in your nervous system. So yeah, literally take a breath, go to sleep, drink water, get some good food. Yeah.
Well, and just over a year ago, so you changed my life drastically. I didn't know it, but I was a mouth breather, and my shoulders were all messed up. My back was in, just it was tied in knots.
Yeah.
And you turned me on to a book called Breath,
Mhm.
and I realized that my entire person exists beneath my nose and my chest, and I was breathing through my mouth the whole time.
Mhm.
I started breathing through my nose religiously as much as possible, and my body has just relaxed 100-fold.
Yeah.
it really is incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to highlight some of the big points of that book, because I do think they're well worth noting. Nasal breathing is, yeah, just huge for your nervous system in terms of like literally your fight or flight is linked to mouth breathing. So if you think about like you're running from a tiger or like in the depths of a fight for your life, you're probably breathing in through your mouth, and that kind of indicates to your body we're in danger. So that's like a huge, huge thing. If you're telling your body we're kind of in danger, we're on the edge all the time because we're mouth breathing. Versus if you take a nose breath, then you kind of know that you're at least safe. You're in a place where you can have that space to breathe. And I think a lot of people just don't take that time to acknowledge it, and you're an Iron Man, like you're going through one of the craziest physical trials ever and still maybe having some of those issues. So professional athletes, college athletes, Ironmen can still have these problems. Another couple of things with nose breathing versus mouth breathing is that it just also is like a little bit of a humidifier and a purifier of air. So it's literally the cleaning air as you get in, which like you get less dehydrated, so there's just a lot of things where it literally like creates like a better like homeostasis, like a better environment for your body of just like you're gonna be calmer and you're gonna have better, cleaner air in your body. Bunch of other benefits to go into with that, but I could nerd about for a long time.
When I breathe in through my mouth now, I feel as though I'm getting unenriched air. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I'm breathing through my nose, I feel like I'm getting what I'm supposed to get through the air.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, and look, we could do an entire episode on breath because it really did change my life that much. Mm-hmm. But I want to actually go now to your personal story. You actually have an incredible off the couch to, or maybe not off the couch, but why don't you just tell us, where were you when you started your physical change?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest physical change, like I said, is pretty much when I started with bodywork. That like first hip release, getting out of back pain. That was a big moment where I started losing a lot of weight. So at that point, I was 330 pounds.
Wow.
And, like you said, I wasn't necessarily stuck on the couch. I was a pretty active guy. I was powerlifting, going to the gym probably 5-6 times a week, but I was also eating 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day, probably. Yeah. Once I kind of got out of back pain, that kind of opened the door for me to start realizing like how many other things that I needed to kind of address. Right. And I knew that the weight was not helping my back at all. So I kind of took that initiative to actually start losing weight. But I think again, like the bodywork opened up that door for me where I was like just too depressed, not motivated enough to make those changes. But once I got out of pain, then I was like, oh, I could actually make changes. Right. So might as well, start eating healthier. Like, let's get to sleep better. Let's start eating at the right times of the day. So about over the course of the next 18 months, I lost 120 pounds. So I went down from like 330 down to 210. Completely fixed my back pain, got my core strong, and then started, getting back into like running and lifting heavy and just feeling good about myself again. So that's
incredible. 120 pounds. Mm-hmm. That's the determination that must take. What was that like? Maybe not just starting it, because you kind of touched on why you just started it, but mm-hmm. you're 2 or 3 months into this endeavor. Mm-hmm. You're seeing some results, but you're still over 300 pounds. Mm-hmm. Bring me into that specific time period in your life, and what did you draw upon to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was lucky in terms of, honestly, this is just my own personal story of like, for me, I think I had like reverse body dysmorphia. So like, I think I always like saw that in myself that I could get down to that weight. So I think that's a huge kind of advantage that I had going into it. I think some people are maybe stuck in this headspace of like, I am this big person, I'm never going to lose the weight. Luckily for me, I kind of had this idea that like, I'm going to get down to that weight eventually. Like I knew I wasn't going to be stuck at 300 my whole life. Like I knew at some point I was going to make that shift. So I think that helped to kind of have that vision at the end, to kind of have the confidence to start. And then I was getting into the fitness world. So I was becoming a personal trainer, and I think I just had a lot of responsibility almost to my clients and people around me to like kind of walk the walk, I think I had the strength stuff down. I was a really strong guy at 300 pounds, but obviously didn't have my cardio down, didn't have my mobility down. So as I was kind of getting started in this world, that was a huge motivation to kind of like be an example for my clients. Right. And that discipline just kind of rang in my head of kind of like when you want to get a snack late at night. It's like, that like you have clients you're going to be talking to the next day.
Right.
And if you're a little bit more disciplined that night, it's obviously going to be better for me, but I'm going to come into work a better person, show up for my clients a little bit better. So I think I focused on that. I love external motivation. So if somebody else kind of gives me a reason to do something, that definitely helps out a lot. Just kind of like had milestones too. I think that's a big thing. It's like not thinking about it all in one task. Not thinking about I have to lose 120 pounds. I did it in like 30-pound chunks. So I just had that next number in my head of like, I'm going to get down from the 330 down to 300. And then that's my goal. Once I got to 300, cool, collect myself, and then move on to the next goal. So
there's a lot there, and I think what I would want to highlight is for folks who maybe do have that body dysmorphia or don't have that self-image. And when I was out of shape, and I could show you pictures of my driver's license when I was a drunk, and it was awful. I mean, I looked like I'm possessed. But I never felt like I looked like that. I always had a strong enough positive self-image that I thought I looked the way I do now. But certainly for folks who may not have that positive body image, I think that maybe taking things into chunks incrementally is maybe a great place for someone to start.
Definitely.
So we kind of talked about, getting off, not you specifically getting off the couch, but somebody who needs to turn their life around and just start with that. Start eating healthy, getting some sleep. What about folks who, are physically active, maybe physically fit, but now they're in trouble and their life is out of control? What would you recommend for somebody like that, kind of the next level up?
Gotcha. I mean, I think that's like, taking that next step out of the basics and like actually getting on a program is huge. So it's like we're joining a gym, getting into classes, getting a trainer, something like that helps. Accountability, yeah, absolutely. And again, if none of those are options for you, there's plenty of free programs on the internet. There are so many out there. So you can find those things today. You can find a program. And it doesn't need to be a lot of equipment. It could be like a body weight exercise program. But again, having accountability, having a schedule, and actually being like, I'm going to go work out on these days, that's something that you can control and something you can take wins at. And that's something only you can rely on. It doesn't have anything to do with like the criminal justice system. It doesn't have anything to do with your partner, your mom, your dad, anybody. If you can go do those like 10 sit-ups, 10 push-ups, 10 squats, and do those on the days that you're recommending, you're starting to build wins and you're starting to build some consistency. And you're starting to take control. So
and you own those wins. Those are yours.
Absolutely.
Every time you get up at 6:30 in the morning and you get that workout in, or you get up before 6:30 and start working out at 6, whatever. The time doesn't matter. Every time you get after it, even when you don't want to, when you're done, you own that win.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Those build up, right?
Absolutely.
Now, as a lot of folks know, and as you know, I got my second DUI when I was in law school. It was right before I graduated, and I was about to take the bar exam.
Great.
And so, as is typically the case with crises in that of that nature. But anyway, I woke up that next day and my life was turned upside down. It was just a field of wreckage, and I had no idea how I was going to get through all of it. And so what I did is I just started putting my head down, and whether that was mentally going through the process of each day and clearing as much of that physical wreckage, actual wreckage that I caused. But then I wanted to take control of my body. I was studying for the bar exam. I'd seen people just lose all sense of health while studying for the bar exam, and I had no control over anything else. So I started running, and I don't know that I ever stopped. I ended up blowing my knee out about 8 months into the running endeavor, and that was the only thing that ever really limited me. And frankly, the long-term injury is the only thing that ever stops me now. But for me, it was, I'm caught up in the criminal injustice system. I don't know what my future is going to be, and I'm going to do this one thing that they can't take away from me.
Yeah.
How does that resonate with the folks you work with in your field and maybe folks who are having those types of issues?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a fantastic point to make, though, that there are so many things in life that we don't control, and that is fine. Like, that is how the world works. But having something that you can control does give you a lot of agency and does kind of like bring in kind of, I don't know, helps get through the day a little bit more. So yeah, I work with lots of like business executives, people who work in government, small business owners, people who are dealing with the world at large and have a lot of stuff coming at them. So to wake up and start the day at 6 a.m. and then do a couple squats and kind of like know that they came in planning to do that, they did that. Nobody else has anything to do with that.
Right.
Again, it gives them the confidence to kind of like start moving throughout the day. But if nothing is really within your control, it's easy to get kind of scatterbrained, kind of let the world start taking control of you, and then you don't really have any agency left. So, again, I think starting out with a run, something where you're like, I'm going to go do this thing. There's nobody really getting in your way.
Right.
Again, it gives you that confidence to kind of start focusing on what you can control, and that spreads across your entire life. Because if obviously it's pretty easy to control the sit-ups or the squats in the morning, it's harder to control your staff or harder to control the government or whoever else you're working with. But there are little things in each one of our businesses or like criminal justice cases that we can control, and you just got to focus on those things and kind of isolate them and do what you can about what you have control over.
And what I want to do there is you mentioned that doing the squats, or at least controlling the squats, is relatively easy compared to the rest of your life. Right?
Yeah.
But you and I both know there are so many cold mornings, there's those days when you just didn't get the night's sleep that you wanted. But you've made that promise to yourself that you were going to do the thing in the morning. So I want you to go into that place with me, because you and I both know what it is.
Yeah.
So do the people listening. How do you overcome that specific gremlin in your head that doesn't want you to do the thing that you know you should?
Great question. I think I often kind of go through this quote. It's one of my favorite things, is that discipline breeds motivation, not the other way around. I think a lot of people wait to be motivated. They want to have this kind of like signal from God of like, I'm going to go out and do it in the morning. And it's like, you just got to be disciplined first. And once you've actually done that thing, once you've actually gone up and made that hard decision, without any motivation, knowing that there's no immediate reward, you're just going to get up and go do the thing. The next time gets a lot easier. Right? The next time. So the first week, really, I push people to just get through it. It's going to be hard. It's going to suck. But the more times you do it, the more times you kind of have this like backbone built up to kind of go do it again. Right. So that's one of the biggest things that I tell myself, is that I need discipline before my motivation. So that discipline, I tell my early morning clients this all the time. When they come in, they're tired and they didn't sleep well or something like that. I'm like, you made your discipline gains today. Like maybe you didn't PR on your squats, but you made extra discipline gains. Right. And that's huge. The more you do that, the more you can consistently kind of go in and any given day, whether you're not feeling well, didn't get a good night's sleep, didn't eat well, you have that discipline to go get in there. Yeah. And the more times you do that, you're motivated, because you're like, this is who I am. I do this shit. I go in and I go do hard things. But if you've never done it before, you don't have that motivation. You don't have that in the back of your head. So you got to build that first.
What an incredible quote. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, how to overcome those barriers, how to make time to take care of yourself. But I think you just answered it, and it says start with discipline. Whether it's eating, sleeping, getting up, getting to the gym, any one of those steps seems to me it boils down to discipline.
Yeah, definitely. And an easy step to actually really make that time is make the time. It sounds obvious, but schedule it, write it down. We're 10 times more likely to do things that we write down physically. So if you actually go write it in your schedule, in your Google Calendar, whatever it is, you're a lot more likely to go do it.
Yes.
So don't just think about it, go plan it, write it, make it real.
And pack your gym bag the night before.
Yeah. That stuff helps a lot. Yeah.
So let's bring this all home now. Whether or not, regardless of a person's physical condition right now, if someone suddenly finds themselves wrapped up in the criminal injustice system and they need something that they can hang their hat on, what can they do concrete to start taking control of their lives?
Yeah, great question. I think just to bring it back to what we've already talked about, that book Breath is a fantastic place to start. Again, that's something you can do in any given situation. No matter where you're at, you can take a couple breaths and start controlling your nervous system and start kind of getting yourself in the right state to succeed. Right. Again, if you're in that fight or flight response, that's just going to screw up all of your decision making from that point on. So I think Breath's a great book. Kind of gives people a lot of breathing exercises, a lot of good scientific literature to kind of back all this stuff up. So I think it's a great place to start. Big fan of, again, like social media stuff. There's a lot of good YouTube, Instagram accounts. Some of the guys that I follow that I think like anybody can follow that provide free content. There's an account called Wealth. It's W and then health. Wealth, and the guy and his wife who made it, Andrew Dettelbach and his wife. They're one of the first kind of people that exposed me to proper core strengthening, proper hip mobility. I credit him very much for giving me a program and a schedule to start getting on a routine to actually fix my back. So he's a great resource for low back stuff. He had disc herniation that he fixed with his own technique. So if you have back pain, highly recommend going to him. Another easy place to start is knees over toes guy. I think I'm a huge advocate of his stuff. Of very scalable if you're like a baby to a grandma, any injury in between, or Iron Man. His stuff works for everybody, and very, very accessible, very well coached. So those are just some of the simple resources that I would like to point people to. Of like, if you don't know where to start, like go check out these people, go check out the breath book, go start moving your back around, go start moving your ankles and your knees around and stuff. And
just get that blood flowing.
Absolutely.
And I agree. I couldn't attest to that book more. It literally changed my life. I am in significantly less pain than I have been in the last 20 years because I started breathing through my nose. And keep in mind, I was already running and doing Ironmans all through my mouth. Now, because this is the Criminal Injustice podcast, I have to ask the question, what does physical health, physical training, massage, body work, how does that lead the way in the fight against criminal injustice?
Great question. Honestly, a little bit of like a meta question, but one of the big reasons I got into it was to make big impacts in the government, in criminal justice. It sounds a bit far out, but I studied political science when I was in college. So I thought about becoming a lawyer. But given the way that my life was going, my opportunities, I didn't feel like that was my best path to impact the world. But then again, through my own personal experience, I realized how many other CEOs, how many judges, how many, like people working in prisons are in pain. And they're making bad decisions because they're in pain. So that's where I feel like if we can start with that, and like we actually start with like our leaders, if we can get like the president and the judges, all them to start doing mobility work, to start breathing properly, their nervous systems are going to be in a better place. They might make more empathetic decisions. So I would like to put pressure on those people first to make changes in their own life, so that way we can start making better decisions as a society. And that's where I really want to focus my efforts, is people like you, who actually have a place of this, like have some power in the criminal justice system. So yeah, I think like politicians, all them need to kind of get on this, and we'll eventually kind of like with better, healthier decisions in our own personal lives, make better, healthier decisions as a society. Because I know that's what happened for me. I was not making good decisions in my own life because I was in pain. And I think a lot of our leaders are in pain. I don't think that a lot of them take care of themselves. I've met a lot of these people and they don't have great routines. So I would really love for those people to start doing that stuff. And then again, if you are somebody who is in the criminal justice system, if you're incarcerated, again, it's something that you can control. It's something that you can start taking a positive ownership over your life and start realizing you do have some power. You might not have power over your entire situation, but you have power over your breath. Nobody's stopping that. As long as you're alive, you're breathing, and you can start with that. And then again, body weight workouts, getting outside and going through all that. So that's like how I think like health and wellness and all this stuff can actually make a big impact in the world and actually start making better, decisions as a society. And I think like particularly for the criminal justice system, we just need more empathy. And I think if we're in less pain and we're taking better care of ourselves, we actually want to do better for the people around us, and we stop getting so selfish. Because when you're in pain, I think you start thinking about just yourself and how do I get out of this situation, and you're not thinking about the person next to you. So
got to remove the plank from your eyes so that you can help other folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this has been great, Oliver. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for giving us such great insight into really taking control of our lives, especially when it seems so out of reach.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right.
Yeah.
I wanted to take a moment today after speaking with Oliver to talk a little bit about REVO Physical Therapy. That's where Oliver works. They have two locations, one in Boulder and one in Denver. They focus on personal training, massage therapy, and dry needling. And frankly, they do an incredible job. They've changed my life. They are dedicated to getting to the bottom of the problem, whether that's dry needling the ancient pain and of muscles that have been tied up for years, or just getting those knots unkinked so that you can start moving again. Also strength training, and really they provide a great community for their folks as well. So I really recommend you reach out to REVO if you are looking to improve your physical well-being. They really do a great job. Thanks.